Order. Order. I call the Secretary of State for Education, Gavin Williamson, to make a statement.
With permission, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'd like to make a statement regarding the publication of a Skills for Jobs white paper on the next steps for post-16 education reform. Last October, I notified the House of our plans to introduce a dynamic programme of measures to reshape this country's further and technical education landscape, which is a key part of our mission to empower everyone in this country and level up those areas which have been overlooked and under-resourced for too long. I informed Honourable and Right Honourable members that the details of how we would do this would be spelt out in a white paper, and I'm pleased to announce its publication today. Madam Deputy Speaker, this House needs no reminding that this country stands at a critical point in its history. We have some enormous challenges ahead. There is an urgent need to rebuild an economy injured by the COVID pandemic. We have already outlined an unprecedented support package to protect jobs and offer retraining to those who have lost theirs due to COVID-19. But beyond COVID, we must also forge a new identity as an independent trading nation. Both of these challenges have exposed our need for a strong and flourishing technical education sector to fire up the jobs of the future. This white paper is our blueprint for that future. It is going to play a pivotal role in creating jobs and rebuilding our economy. Through the Lifetime Skills Guarantee, we will help people train and retrain at any stage of their lives. Our new flexible digital skills boot camps training will give people the technical skills that they need for great jobs through 12 to 16-week courses. And these boot camps will be expanded into other sectors such as engineering. From this April, tens of thousands of adults will be able to benefit from almost 400 free courses, which will be the first phase in the Lifetime Skills Guarantee. These fully funded courses, which range from engineering to healthcare and conservation, will be available to adults without a full qualification at A-level equivalent or above, to help them gain skills which are in demand and which will open up exciting new job opportunities for them. In April, we will also kick-start the expansion of higher technical education as we work towards making it as easy to get a loan for an approved higher technical qualification as it is for a full-length degree. We'll also introduce pilots to encourage more flexible and modular provision so courses are more accessible and more convenient. Lifelong loan entitlement will be up and running from 2025 and will build on the changes we're bringing in through this white paper. Learners will be able to fit study around work, family and personal commitments, and retrain as their circumstances or the economy changes. This white paper is going to put employers firmly at the centre of our local skills system, working in partnership with colleges and key local stakeholders to shape technical skills provision so that it better supports the local economy. It is going to introduce German-style local skills improvement plans, which will be led by business organisations such as local chambers of commerce. These will identify the skills and area needs and spell out what needs to change to make more training more responsive to employers' needs. In turn, our further education colleges will shape the courses they offer to meet these skill needs, and we will make strategic development funding available to help them do this. We'll start the ball rolling with a small number of trailblazer areas this year, and will pilot a strategic development fund of £65 million in 2021-2022 to help providers reshape provision to meet local employers' needs. By putting the employer voice at the heart of skills provision, we'll ensure that technical education and training gives people the skills they need to get great jobs in sectors the economy needs and boost this country's productivity. We'll back this through a £1.5 billion worth of capital funding to upgrade our further education colleges, and today have announced the next phase of the FE Capital Transformation Fund. And last week, we made the next wave of capital funding for T-level providers available, making £135 million available for those delivering them in September 2022. As far as long-term plans are concerned, we're going to move to a more coherent, simpler funding model that we are going to design together with the sector, and we will be consulting on this later in the spring. This will make sure that there is far more focused approach to funding than is currently the case. The consultation will be guided by the principles of high value, greater flexibility for providers and enhanced accountability that will see providers taking greater responsibility for the results that they provide. By 2030, we expect nearly all technical courses to follow employer-led standards, ensuring that the education and training people receive are directly linked to the skills that they will need in order to be able to get a job. We're going to continue with our existing programme of reforms like employer-led apprenticeships and our T-level programme. All apprenticeship starts are now on employer-designed standards, and will be supporting employers to make greater use of their levy contributions by improving the transfer system and more flexible training models. The White Paper is also going to extend our network of institutes of technology to every region of the country, and we see a corresponding increase in higher level technical skills in science, technology, engineering and maths. In this way, we will future-proof our workforce so that we are ready to deal with a constantly evolving economic landscape. All of our reforms depend on our ability to recruit and retain top-quality teaching staff in the further education sector. So we're going to launch a national recruitment campaign for further education teachers, strengthen initial teacher education, improve the support that new teachers receive, and help provide more opportunities for improved training and development, such as work experience as part of our industry exchange programme. When the Prime Minister announced the Lifetime Skills Guarantee last year, he spoke of how we were going to align both our further and higher education sectors. I can now tell you that we have published the interim conclusion of a review of post-18 education and funding that will address some of the key recommendations made by Dr. Philip Auger in his report from 2019. I've also laid copies of a report of Dame Shirley Pearce's independent review of a Teaching Excellence and Student Outcomes Framework and the Government's response before both Houses of Parliament. Today, I've also published the Post-Qualifications Admission Reform Consultation to seek views on whether to change the current system of higher education admissions and move to a system of post-qualification admissions. Our proposed reform to the teaching grant for the academic year 2021-22 will allocate funding to deliver value for money for students and the taxpayer, increasing support for strategic subjects such as engineering and medicine, while slashing the taxpayer subsidy for such subjects as media studies. We want to ensure that our small and specialist providers, including some of our top music and arts providers, receive additional support, and that grant funding is used to effectively support students as well. This spring, we will consult on further reforms to the higher education system, including the introduction of minimum entry requirements to higher education institutions and addressing the high cost of foundation years and other matters before setting out a full response to the report and final conclusion to review of post-18 education and funding alongside the next comprehensive spending review. Madam Deputy Speaker, this white paper is a step change in how this country prepares people for their working lives. I know there is an enormous amount of cross-party consensus and a real will on all sides of the House to make a real change in this sector, a change that has been needed for so long. And I very much hope that all members will work together to ensure that we're able to deliver on this. These proposals will ensure that people can learn the skills that they need to get a great job, as well as have control over the means for a more fulfilling and productive life. This white paper will be the lever to unleash our nation's creativity and talents and will make this country an economic force to be reckoned with, and I commend this statement to the House.
Call the Shadow Secretary of State for Education, Kate Green.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Secretary of State for advance sight of his statement. And may I start by paying tribute to the learners and workers, unions and employers, colleges and training providers who've done incredible work over many years in providing skills, jobs and opportunities in the face of a government that for the last 10 years has been more interested in slashing the FE budget. I'm glad that today, after a decade of cuts to funding and opportunities, that the importance of further and technical education to our economy and people's life chances has finally been recognised. But even when the government gets things right, and there are measures in this white paper that we on these benches have been calling for some time, they come too late for families, businesses and our country. I support the principle of expanding the right to lifelong learning to include study for a Level 3 qualification for those without one. But this will only serve to reverse the damage inflicted by years of Conservative governments which saw learning entitlements cut and replaced with loans that meant the number of adult learners plummeted. The Secretary of State said that he wants to see more talented individuals teaching in further education. But the cuts in further education funding over the past 10 years have led to huge cuts in real terms wages, driving many talented teaching staff from the profession. And while I welcome the principle of flexible funding to allow more learners to access the skills they need, the Secretary of State said this won't be in place until 2025, years after those facing the risk of unemployment right now could have benefited. I'm also concerned that the government continues to pursue a system of loans that will plunge students into more debt and create barriers to learning. On the Lifetime Skills Guarantee, can the Secretary of State tell me how he decided which sectors would be included and how many jobs are in our economy are in sectors that have been omitted? Can the list of sectors change depending on the needs of individuals, employers and our wider economy? And what conversations has he had with the Metro mayors and combined authorities about local skills needs? What support will be available to those who are not qualified to Level 2 or are already qualified to Level 3 but need to train for jobs in a new sector? There's nothing here for community learning, for ESOL and basic skills courses. What support will be available for these learners? What will be available to those who want to study towards higher technical qualifications other than new qualifications that are at least a year away from existing? Does the Secretary of State agree that you can't have equality between further and higher education if only one of those routes benefits from maintenance support? And when will the further education sector be given the long-term funding settlement it deserves? Can he guarantee a sustainable settlement in the spending review this year? Madam Deputy Speaker, we've already waited 2 years to get an interim response to the Auger review. And I remain concerned that the Secretary of State seems to be committed to a zero-sum game where parts of HE have to lose in funding or support or prestige for others to gain. Does he agree that, in fact, the opposite is true, that we get the best results for individuals, communities and our country when they can get a world-class education in whatever route suits them, be it college, university or with an employer? On the teaching excellence framework, I'm glad he's finally abandoned the idea of a subject-level measure, as suggested by Universities UK, the UCU and the Labour Party many months ago. And most of all, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Secretary of State must surely realise he has to act fast to address the disruption and uncertainty our economy and our labour market are experiencing. Almost 1 in 20 working-age people, 1.7 million, are unemployed, and many more will feel their jobs are at risk. They're worried about paying the bills, about their jobs, about their future. And what have they been told today by the Secretary of State? That they can access more training, but not for a few months. That they can access new qualifications, but not for a year. That they can benefit from flexible finance, but not for 5 years. I urge the Secretary of State to go much faster to offer support to people who need it immediately. If we're to rebuild our economy from the ravages of this pandemic and secure people's futures, we need action, and we need it urgently.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And the Honourable Lady raises a number of important points, and I was almost got the impression that she might have even wanted to sort of work together on sort of maybe a common cause, but we didn't quite get to that point. We recognise that we want to be investing more into our further education estate. That's why we've put the £1.5 billion capital programme. We recognise that we want to be putting more into skills for all young people, but people of all ages, where they face a situation where they recognise that they need to gain new skills in order to be able to advance their prospects or maybe enter a different place of work. And that is why we put £2.5 billion behind the National Skills Fund. And we do recognise that we need to be investing more in our colleges. That's why not only last year but also this year we have had record rises in terms of 16 to 19 funding, and we want to continue to work with the sector to strengthen it. I certainly take on board a number of the challenges that she sort of throws down there, and because I think there is a real appetite on both sides of the House of ensuring that, you know, not just young people but people of every age have the ability to have a flexibility in their lives to pick up the new skills that are required to such a rapidly changing economy. We want to always bring measures forward much faster than we can, and I would always be happy to work with the Honourable Lady to ensure there's any changes that we want to bring forward in this House have the enthusiastic support of opposition benches, and I note the Deputy Chief Whip of the Labour Party in his place, so I'm sure would be happy to facilitate that. But these measures will see a recasting of a post-16 education landscape. And it is not about taking away from one to give to another. It's about making sure that all young people, whatever their choice, they have a good choice. Our colleges are some of the greatest institutions in this country, and they have such deep links and such deep roots with local communities, because so often they were forged out of those local communities by local businesses to satisfy those local needs. And it is actually bringing them back to very much the founding principles of further education and the creation of these colleges. That is what we're aiming to do. We want to deliver a revolution and reform of our college sector and our technical and vocational sector. Young people can achieve so much by going and having higher technical qualifications. For far too long, it is felt there has been only one choice, and that one choice is to go to university. Actually, so often, taking a different route, taking a different path, gives so much more and delivers so much more for those young people. And we need to be making sure that that message is out there, because by taking that message out there, by making sure that the colleges have the ability to deliver and the support to deliver, we will literally change the future of hundreds of thousands of young lives and the direction and course of so many other people's lives who need the new skills in order to prosper and take on the new challenges that they face.
Before we move to the chair of the Select Committee, just to say that this statement will finish at 1:53. So we will need to have brisk questions and brisk answers if we've got any chance of getting through everybody. Chair of the Select Committee, Robert Helfand.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And my first ever speech in the House of Commons was about apprenticeships and skills. So I give a huge welcome to the white paper and the passion of the Secretary of State for further education, because it will help close our skills deficit, ensure qualifications and training are led by employer needs, and the lifetime skills guarantee and the flexible finance will allow disadvantaged people to climb the skills ladder of opportunity at any age. And I note the white paper says that young people tend to get careers advice from their family, but it also says that just 28% of parents are confident advising their children on apprenticeships, and this plummets to 21% for technical and vocational options. So it's hugely welcome that the white paper pledges to toughen up enforcement of the Baker Clause, with funding conditional on compliance and lowering the age of children to which schools must offer independent careers advice to year sevens. Will my right honourable friend make it his mission to ensure schools encourage skills, FE and apprenticeships as much as they do university? And will he consider establishing a real UCAS for FE and skills?
Well, I thank my right honourable friend, and I know he has not just championed this in his maiden speech, but he has championed it all the time he has been in the House of Commons. And he is absolutely right. It is not adequate to expect family members to be able to give young people the advice they need. And if I can take the opportunity to pay tribute to Lord Baker of Dorking, who did so much in terms of moving that amendment, and we do need to toughen it up. I want to see a parity of esteem, people looking at how they can take the choices, not just immediately moving to university. And I would actually like UCAS to be demonstrating, actually having a list of college courses that could be available to students, especially if we move to a system of post-qualification application, where actually I think colleges and what they can offer could be a much more powerful offer for so many young people. I would certainly happily take up with his thought about having a parallel system to UCAS, but it's maybe also worth looking at the options of how we could bring it together, making sure UCAS have college courses on there as well, so students are making the very best decision for their future.
We now go to Liz Twist.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Young people in my constituency of Blaydon need to know that they will have training opportunities for the jobs of the future, as well as the jobs we have now. How does this white paper align with wider government policy on the industrial strategy, and how do we plan for skills for future jobs?
I think the Honourable Member for Blaydon makes an important point there, and this is why we set up the Skills and Productivity Board to actually look at where some of the challenges are. And of course, one of the challenges for many businesses, they're not looking at taking people on through necessarily a graduate route where someone has to be in learning those skills over a 3-year period. Often they're looking for much smaller, bite-sized training. This is why the boot camps that we're launching in areas such as digital training, advanced engineering are so incredibly important. So the sector has responsiveness that it needs in order to be able to satisfy the skill needs that so many businesses in the Honourable Lady's constituency are really crying out for.
Sarah Brickcliffe.
towards our economic recovery, investing in further education has never been more important.
My honourable friend is so right, and she will see so many young people in her constituency who are looking for the opportunity to unlock the true potential of themselves, and that is not always going to be through a university degree, Madam Deputy Speaker. So often it is through our amazing further education colleges that are able to deliver for the communities in which they're in, and making this investment, making these reforms are going to enable them to go from strength to strength, but being absolutely rooted in the needs of the local economy, because let us make sure that we're training our young people with the skills that they need in order to get the jobs that are out there, as against skills that lead to no jobs.
Now go to Daisy Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The rapidly changing workplace makes it vital that people can acquire new skills throughout their lifetime, but we know that mature students are more averse to taking on debt and often unable to take on long-term repayments if those repayments take them up to retirement. So instead of introducing a lifetime loan entitlement, will the Secretary of State look at introducing a lifetime grant, like the Liberal Democrat idea of a skills wallet, which would give every person up to £10,000 to spend on education and training throughout their lifetime?
Well, I think what the Honourable Lady will see is an expansive package of support for those people who are wanting to get the training and skills, making sure that it's very much designed and fit for the modern economy, and making sure it is responsive enough in order to shift with changing labour market needs.
Now go to Jonathan Gullis.
Deputy Speaker, in Stoke-on-Trent North, Kidsgrove and Torque, I'm blessed with ceramic manufacturing giants like Churchill China who want to skill up locally, exciting R&D companies like Lucidian who are hoping to open an advanced ceramics campus, and a full fibre academy launching this year at Stoke-on-Trent College's Burslem campus, paving the way to unleash Silicon Stoke. So does my right honourable friend agree with me that by ensuring high-quality vocational courses are developed to an employer-led standard, we can make sure they will deliver meaningful and tangible opportunities for young people?
Well, I know that my honourable friend has been championing the concept of Silicon Stoke and making sure that actually not only does Stoke-on-Trent have the inward investment that is so vital for the revitalisation of this great city, but it has the investment in human capital, the talent and the resources that this great city sort of has always had, but always needs enhancing. And I look forward to working with my honourable friend to ensure that that happens and the investment comes to the great city of Stoke-on-Trent.
Cat Smith.
I welcome the move towards local planning and draw the Secretary of State's attention to what is happening at Lancaster and Morecambe College, where the principal, Wes Johnson, is also a director of the local Chamber of Commerce. But every time I visit this fantastic local college, I'm told that uncertainty posed by short-term funding methodologies can create uncertainty in planning strategy to meet that longer-term need of the community. So I ask, when can the FE sector expect a long-term funding settlement to be made?
State.
Well, as the Honourable Lady will be aware, that we had a one-year funding round this year. Every Secretary of State always aspires to a multi-year funding round, and I think that is very much cross-party agreement on that. We're able to secure it for schools, and I very much hope that we can be in the position in the future to secure it for post-16 education in the future as well.
Gareth Davis.
Deputy Speaker, boosting skills will be critical for levelling up counties like mine in Lincolnshire. Can my right honourable friend assure me and everyone in the Grantham and Stamford constituency that our local colleges will receive the resources they need to fully achieve our ambitions for young people?
Secretary of State.
Well, already in my honourable friend's constituency in Grantham and Stamford, already you've got sort of great provision in terms of colleges. What we're wanting to do is make it even greater, make sure that they have the resources to really grow what they're doing, and making sure that they're truly linked in with a local economy. Because where there is those, skill shortages in his constituency, that the colleges are the first place that people turn to, businesses turn to, in order to be able to plug that gap and make sure the economy and businesses are growing strongly and creating the employment that we all want in his constituency and all of our constituencies.
Bill Esterson.
The Chief Executive of City and Guilds, Kirsty Donnelly, says it's disappointing that today is focusing on existing announcements instead of a clear vision for how we can collectively reimagine further education for the future. She also says that the government should devolve power to the regions. In the Liverpool City region, we're ready to deliver the skills needed for the recovery from the pandemic. So will the Education Secretary make at least one new announcement today and commit to giving the authority and resources needed to the regions to develop the technical learning that is needed for the recovery and for the future?
Just a reminder that we do need very brief questions if we're going to get through everybody. Secretary of State.
Well, obviously, the honourable member couldn't be bothered to actually read the white paper, so I'll send him a copy and he'll notice there's been lots of announcements and new announcements.
We now go to Damien Hines.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I welcome what my right honourable friend has set out, including the central role for industry and the extension of employer-led standards? Can you say more about how local skills improvement plans will work, with the right emphasis on the sectors and job roles of the future that he's talking about today, and versatile transferable skills to maximise opportunities and social mobility?
I'd like to take the opportunity to thank my right honourable friend for the work that he has done. This has enabled us to proceed with this Skills for Jobs white paper. If it hadn't been down to my honourable friend's commitment and dedication, and including maybe the odd skirmish with the Treasury, we wouldn't have made the progress we have with the institutes of technology that are already starting to transform young people's lives, and of course T-levels as well. In terms of where we're wanting to go, is we really want business organisations to be really working with colleges, putting this on a statutory footing, very much like what you see in Germany and Switzerland and the Netherlands, where they can actually be part of a co-design of the qualifications that they are needing. There's a matching the job needs of that local community, because that will bring those businesses and that business sector right into the heart of those colleges, making sure that we're driving employment and driving the right set of skills.
We now go to Ruth Cadbury.
West Thames College in Isleworth has a strong reputation, long developed, for providing courses across the range, including basic skills of ESOL, but also locally specific courses in conjunction with employers, such as in aviation, hospitality and media. With so many people in my constituency losing their jobs at Heathrow and its supply chain, courses will have to reorientate to provide retraining in other sectors for those people whose airport jobs won't come back for many years to come. So will the training and retraining be available for colleges such as West Thames? And will they be available for students on universal credit?
Shorter question, Secretary of State.
I'll try and complement that with a shorter answer. Very much so. It's a really important role that colleges will play in the retraining. Obviously, there's going to be a different set of skills and certain industries that will have retracted, but it's making sure that young people and people of all ages get the right skills for the economy.
Now go to Dr. Neil Hudson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I really welcome this forward-thinking skills for job statement from the government. FE colleges play a huge role in levelling up rural communities such as mine. As my right honourable friend knows, Newtonrig College in Penrith, the only land-based college in Cumbria, is in a strategic review by the FE Commissioner as we look to secure a new organisation to take it over. Will my right honourable friend ask his department and DEFRA to work with stakeholders to secure the future of this vital college and ensure that the review process and subsequent negotiations are able to achieve a positive outcome and facilitate a smooth transition to a new provider?
Secretary of State.
Well, I'd like to thank my honourable friend for all the work he has done with myself and, of course, the Minister for Skills and Colleges, because it has been appreciated to him highlighting some of the challenges that Newtonrig face. And we'll continue to work with him and the whole department to try and do everything we can do to have a sustainable future for the college by working with local partners.
Now go to Andrew Gwynn.
As somebody who benefited from in-work technical education in my late teens, I appreciate the value of vocational qualifications and I welcome much of this statement. But if I understand the Secretary of State, he's limited eligibility to the new courses to those with no qualifications at level 3. Can't he see that many people qualified to this level could still need to retrain and may still need support? Will he consider making the system more flexible so that it genuinely meets the needs of working people?
Jay.
Well, we will always be, whether it's through the National Skills Fund, whether it is through the Lifetime Skills Guarantee, look at every measure that needs to be taken to maximise flexibility in terms of the skills sector. These are important steps in the right direction, and I thank the Honourable Gentleman for his warm words, but I do take note of the fact that, quite understandably, as I'm sure all opposition members would always call for us to go a little bit further.
We now go to Peter Alders.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I congratulate my right honourable friend on both his statement and the white paper. It addresses the challenges of enabling those of all ages to obtain the skills that will enable them to realise their ambitions and to fulfil their potential. As he's indicated, to ensure its success, there is a need for colleges such as East Coast College to receive an enhanced, simplified and multi-year funding settlement. And I'll be most grateful if he can do all he can to ensure that this is what is provided in the forthcoming March budget.
Secretary of State.
Well, my honourable friend is right to highlight the great work that East Coast College does, and it's a brilliant example of how it has such a positive impact in terms of its local community and serving it. We won't be in a position to have it'll be up to a comprehensive spending review in order to set any multi-year settlements. Sadly, not the budget, but we'll be working in terms of a simplification of budgets and allocation of monies, which I think will benefit and help many colleges in terms of managing their finance.
Now go to Alex Norris.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Thanks to HS2 and the work of the East Midlands Development Corporation, the outlook for the Nottingham economy is very bright indeed. We need to make sure that we have used the time available to make sure our population will have the skills to access the tens of thousands of jobs that we will add to our local economy. Will the Secretary of State commit that we will have local control over his plans today to make sure that they fit in with the strategies we've already got in place?
Well, what we're wanting to do is make sure local communities benefit from the type of major infrastructure investments that we're making right around the country, and whether that's HS2 or whether that's other infrastructure. And as the honourable gentleman, hopefully when he has the opportunity to sort of get through the white paper, will actually quite clearly see is that we're wanting to put business, local business, right at the heart of decision making. This is a model that has worked in countless countries, including Germany and Switzerland and the Netherlands, and we want to replicate it because actually they're the ones who are seeking the skills for them, and we think they should be a key part of determining what is needed locally.
I really welcome this skills announcement. It's just so crucial for enabling people to realise their potential, for levelling up, for economic success. And will the Secretary of State promise that science, engineering, particularly in the computer and digital field, will be at the heart of his education reforms in this area?
Secretary of State.
My right honourable friend is absolutely right. It's so important that our colleges are at the forefront of ensuring that we have the skills that are needed for the new technologies, the new emerging markets that are going to be so demanding in terms of whether it's skills in green energy, whether it is digital, whether it's cyber security. And colleges can play a pivotal role in providing those skills swiftly and quickly for the market needs.
Karen Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Part of the problem is that too few leaders have personal experience, understanding or indeed respect for the work of further education settings. City of Bristol College can and is ready to support the economic development and pandemic recovery, but they need secure funding nationally and locally now. So will the Secretary of State direct local businesses and particularly the West of England Combined Authority to put the college front and centre of their planning, particularly for levels skills levels 2 and 3?
Well, we'd certainly be hoping that right across the country, not just in Bristol, that everyone would see colleges as a pivotal and absolutely vital lever in terms of delivering economic growth through delivering skills.
We now go to Neil O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Level 4 apprentices go on to earn more than the average undergraduate, and according to the IFS, 30% of undergraduate degrees lead to negative returns overall. Does my right honourable friend agree that rebalancing the system towards our neglected technical education sector is the right thing for young people and the right thing for the country?
I would absolutely agree with that. It is a real Achilles heel of this country. In this country, we have 10% of the 18 to 65 workforce that have higher technical qualifications. This compares with 20% in Germany, 34% in Canada. We've got to address that skills deficit. This is where there is so much demand for the type of skills that people want, businesses want, and of course the outcomes for those people who get those skills, who get that training, are incredibly positive, not least into the fact that they're usually outperforming the earnings of those who are graduates.
We now go to Clive Efford.
The Secretary of State has spoken passionately about this sector. But that's simply not borne out over what's happened over the last 10 years, which has been a story of cuts and lack of investment. So can the Secretary of State say what he can do to ensure that funding is guaranteed to continue into the future so that this sector can plan ahead?
Chief State.
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for commenting. It's something I do care passionately about, because I think, like so many members of this House, we recognise it shouldn't be a debate just about the 50% of youngsters that go to university. It should be about the other 50% as well. And we all recognise the importance that our colleges provide. You know, I recognise there is a big task ahead and there will be many demands. As I've touched on before, we've already delivered a £1.5 billion capital funding programme, £2.5 billion National Skills Fund. We recognise that we need to always go further in terms of our colleges, but I do recognise that there continue to remain substantial challenges. But I can absolutely reassure the honourable gentleman of my commitment for delivering for this incredibly important sector, because it really, really does change lives.
Final question, Robbie Moore.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I know my right honourable friend is well aware of the great work Keighley College, led by Steve Kelly, is doing in my constituency of building up a good working relationship between the education and business sectors. So does my right honourable friend agree with me that it is crucial our businesses engage constructively and work together with colleges to ensure we plug the local skills gaps? And can he set out how the Skills for Jobs white paper will make this happen?
Secretary of State.
Well, I'm very happy to, and pay tribute to Keighley College and the work it does. And obviously, a college that was born out of the industry of which made Keighley great. And what we want to be doing is seeing that relationship between business and colleges incredibly close. We want to see local businesses really driving the design of courses, working with those colleges, making sure that actually there's a clear understanding by working with the colleges is not only benefiting the businesses by providing the highly skilled individuals that they need in order to prosper into the future, but it's also benefiting the colleges by having that business input. And I'd like to see more and more businesses lending some of their expertise to the colleges, making sure that they're both prospering out of this incredibly important relationship that we will put into statute.
I thank the Secretary of State for his statement, and for honourable and right honourable members in their cooperation for making sure that we got everybody in within the time available. I'm sorry I had to push people, but we have got 2 debates to follow this afternoon that honourable members will have been preparing for. So thank you. Point of order, Chion Warren.
Thank you very, very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I wonder if I might seek your advice. During Women and Equalities questions last week, the Minister of Equalities told me her first report on the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on ethnic minority groups in October had concluded that there is no evidence suggesting that ethnicity itself is a risk factor. This is not correct and creates a false impression. The details of Workstreams 3 of the 4 that form the terms of reference 3 say that, and I quote, further data, research and analysis on the above factors is needed to fully understand the disparities from COVID-19 to ethnic minorities, the point I was indeed making, Madam Deputy Speaker, and then quoting again, in summary, the evidence shows an increased risk for Black and South Asian ethnic groups. How can the Minister correct the record in what is a really important area and a subject of great concern to many Black and ethnic minority communities?
Well, I'm grateful for the honourable member for her point of order and giving her notice of her intention to raise the matter. I understand that she has also given notice to the honourable member for Saffron Walden. I'm sure she was not implying in any way that there was any intention on the part of the Minister to give incorrect information. And as she knows, I'm not responsible for the accuracy or inaccuracy of anything that may have been said by ministers from the dispatch box. I'm sure the Treasury bench will have heard what the Honourable Lady has to say. I'm sure that if any minister would come to the House as quickly as possible if they felt any information had inadvertently been given that was inaccurate. She's made her concerns known to the House, and I'm sure she will find other ways to pursue the matter as well. I'm suspending the House for 2 minutes to ensure the necessary arrangements are made for the next business. Thank you.